Alright everybody, welcome back to Genshin Impact. This is just a random one-off video that I wanted to do to talk about one of my new favorite characters in the game that just came out. You can see her spinning in circles on your screen right now. The one and only Rosaria. She is slowly becoming one of my favorite characters to bring along in one of my teams. I think she's absolutely insane in terms of both potential like top end and just low investment play. And if you really like what you see of her in this video, I highly recommend going and pulling for her. If you have the in-game currency already and or don't mind, spending money. I'm not she's not literally game breaking, don't get me wrong. That's not where this is going. This is not a go get this character at all costs type video. I think she's just incredibly powerful. So, she is a cryo polearm user, as I'm sure everyone knows, as long as they've been paying attention to the game at all. And there's a few different ways to play her. Personally, I like running her in a permafreeze comp. If you don't know what I mean by permafreeze comp, I mean a comp that runs Hydro and Cryo. In this case, I'm running 2 of each. And literally what you do is you just permanently freeze the enemies so that they cannot do anything to fight you. And you're also getting the bonus Shattering Ice effect, which gives you even more crit rate on characters. So let's talk about her potential as a character in a permafreeze comp. This could be with her as the main DPS, this could be her as a sub DPS, or this could be kind of how I'm doing it right now, where she's kind of sharing main DPS duties, where Rosaria and Tartaglia, or Child, as I normally call them, I kind of swap between the two of them and use them to fight stuff. I think she works really well with him because of her burst working the way that it does, dropping a giant ice field that pulses out a dot of cryo, because you apply Hydro so fast that it's just going to constantly be freezing stuff, because they're going to have Hydro applied to them by the time that your ice pulse hits them, and they're going to be frozen again. And now, whether you can use her as a main DPS, or a sub DPS, or a pure support for the cryo composition, it's really, really easy to build for, and that's why I like the permafreeze comp for her so much. The big reason is that the Blizzard Strayer 4-piece set is just so insanely powerful. She by default gets 15% cryo bonus damage if you get the 2-piece, and when you get to the 4-piece, if something's hit by cryo, 20% more crit rate. Frozen, 20% more crit rate. Oh, by the way, crit rate against opponents that are frozen or affected by cryo, another 15%. So let's do the math. So what's that, 15%? Plus 20%, plus 20%. What was that? 55% additional crit rate? So these are my stats at the moment. That's not actually going to be 28% if the enemy is frozen. That's going to be 83% if the enemy is frozen. 83% crit rate. So obviously, use a crit damage circlet, right? That's like the base idea of the permafreeze comp with someone like Rosaria, and the same exact thing applies with Kaya. I talked about this in my video with him, but I honestly think Rosaria kinda does Kaya, but better. And you'll see what I mean when we get into combat here. I'd started up a challenge with this exact team to test this comp a little bit to make sure that it worked the way exactly how I thought it did. Can I skip this? Let's just give character defense so that I'm not, like, messing with my DPS at all. I'm not helping myself, minus this circle giving me bonus damage. So, I'm gonna start by popping Diona's, and then I'm gonna pop this, and then... Oop. Now everything's frozen. And it's just frozen. And as you can see, I'm critting, like, every single attack here. Like, every single thing that they're getting hit by is freezing them just about. It's a lot. And I really like Diona in here as a support, because of the way that she also applies giant cryo fields. Because now, if I can get her burst up, I now have 2 massive cryo fields just kind of wandering around here. so that everyone is just always frozen, and I'm getting this massive crit rate buff to my whole party. The 15% applies to the whole party, even if the extra 40 only applies to the person who's actually doing the freezing for the cryo stuff. Like, it's just crazy. And then because the enemies are frozen, you're like barely in danger. Like, honestly, Diona's kind of optional here. Jing Q could probably provide enough healing for a permafreeze party that you could swap Diona out with like any number of other cryo people. So let's... Again... Is there not a way to... Hang on. This game is trying to ruin my videos. Here we go. So cryo units you could bring along. You could have Ganyu instead of Diona. You could have Chi-Chi if you want even more healing, or someone who just brings more damage. Chongyun instead of her, if you want someone with a claymore to do shatter, maybe. Although I don't highly recommend it because it ruins them being permanently frozen if you shatter them. Kaya would be great as well in place of Diona because of just the sheer ability to keep them all frozen. It's nutty, and this is why I think this is one of her best comps. But this isn't the only way to use Rosaria. So let's start up another one here. Go back in. Abandon that challenge. We're going to use the same floor as an example here. Let's do a different comp that I think shows off another strong part of her in a superconduct comp. So we're going to do a double electro, double cryo comp. Literally just going to choose random units for the other team just so it lets me go in. We're going to do just an insane superconduct comp here. Basically, constantly applying cryo with multiple characters. Grabbing defense again so I'm not messing with my numbers. So that we're just shredding physical defenses all the way across the board. So, you know, drop in all the electro damage and then start going with cryo. And all the superconduct means that I now have all of their physical prots shredded, more or less. I'm hitting just massive physical damage, and this is even with the Blizzard Strayer set still on. I didn't even change her gear. She's not even sorted out to instead be a physical DPS, which is even crazier. I swap over to my beta, who is a physical though, and she hits like an absolute tank here. As you can see, it just rips through everything. All of this giant pulsing cryo spear that does massive damage the whole time. Pairing it with another cryo unit who can just generate particles makes it absolutely just insane. They're always frozen, and when they're finally not frozen, they have their physical defenses shredded. Like, I hate retry in place of abandon, but the idea still stands here. It's just nutty. She's such a good support. The fact that she just makes these giant cryo fields that will constantly trigger cryo effects means she's also good in melt comps. I don't have one in mind that I already use, but she's just really, really strong. Especially because of her constellations and talents, which I haven't even touched yet. I've just talked about how she actually plays inside of stuff. Like I said, I still think her best sets here, 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. I personally use the Lithic Spear for a little bit extra crit rate on her. Just a little bit when she's paired with people like Xingqiu. You can even throw in Xiangling. You could probably throw in Zhao or something like that to these comps just for more elemental reactions. But I like this on her because it just gives her so much base attack. She has like nearly 2,000 base attack. So she just hits hard. And because I use this, you could, I mean, honestly, you don't even need to use this. You could swap it out. You could use a Dragon Spine Spear on her, running her as a raw physical DPS. Swap out her artifact set. Heck, use a Bloodstained Chivalry and Gladiator's Finale set on her. Although I still highly recommend you just do cryo damage, because Ravaging Confession and Rites of Termination are just all cryo damage. Even though your basic attacks hit real hard, you still want to get a little bit of cryo damage in there. You could all-in hard commit. You could give her a physical damage goblet as well. I've seen great success with it, especially because of the way her constellations can work at C6, and I haven't even gotten into that. We can do a real quick talk about her talents, though, as to why I think she's so good otherwise. Ravaging Confession, you just teleport and do like 330% of your damage here. This is a level 9 version, though, because I have, you know, constellations, because I pulled a lot for her. But she travels behind them and hits them for massive damage. But with Raging Confession, when she strikes an opponent from behind using it, with this Regina Probitonium? Tionum? I really have a hard time saying her skills, I apologize. You boost her crit rate. She really doesn't need to have crit rate on her at all. I think that's another reason why the Blizzard Destroyer set is so good. Who needs crit rate when this is boosting your crit? When you're running 2 cryo units in your party boosting your crit again, when you have this passive talent boosting her crit rate again. I think with this, it's about 67% bonus crit on a frozen target if you have teleported behind them. So I think I nearly have 100% crit rate when that happens. An extra 67% pushes me up to like 90-something% crit rate. So I nearly have 100% crit rate when that happens. But there is a reason to build her for crit rate. And I feel like if you're building her as more of a pure support, who just jumps in, throws down her burst, and then gets swapped out, you might want to actually do the opposite of DPS Rosaria and go for just crit rate all across the board because of the way Shadow Samaritan here works. When she casts her burst, her entire party gets 15% of her crit rate. Now, I don't know how this applies to the boost she gets from her other skills, because I, as far as I know, there's no way to check in real time what someone's crit rate is, and if there is, someone smarter than me has probably already figured it out, but regardless, you can basically just stack her crit rate to get 100% crit rate by default, and then when she casts her burst, your whole party will get 15% more crit rate. Meaning that you can more or less get a party running with 100% crit rate against frozen targets by only speccing the rest of the party into like 50% crit rate. It's insane. It's absolutely insane how much she can bring. I haven't even started on the constellations. Another reason for crit for her. It boosts her attack speed and attack damage. This is just increasing the level. This one's not even increasing the level. This one's increasing the duration. Her constellations are really good. The first 2 are by far some of the best ones. So we get someone here and it's like, oh, let's upgrade the level of the skills. So that's nice. This one's really nice because if you crit with Revenant Confession, she gets energy. And if you get her all the way to C6, you can even decrease physical res, making her an insane support for Razor because you're superconducting to reduce physical prots, and then you're also reducing physical res. And then you could, heck, you could even throw Jinyan in there for her boost of physical damage, which is, what is it? Something in here. Yeah, there it is. Characters shielded by her will deal 15% more physical damage. You could pair her and Rosaria together in a party. Boost and shred physical protections of people, then throw in a main DPS like Razor or Beto, both of whom are amazing Electro main DPS who do great physical damage. But that's it. That's the video. Weird, crazy, all over the place short video about how I think Rosaria is just an awesome support, and you should get her. If you have the primos lying around and you like the banner, you should go for Rosaria. Honestly, I think Tartaglia, Child, here, is actually a really, really strong unit. Even if you don't have the means to build him currently, he's someone you could build later on down the line. I think he works great. Fischl and Barbara are both amazing support characters, both of whom would work with Rosaria in either a Permafreeze or Superconduct comp. Just saying. I mean, if you're like me and you already had C6 Fischl going in, you're going to get really disappointed when you get her a bunch on this banner, but still, I guess I'm throwing this out here at the end just to be kind of like a pseudo warning of you're going to get these characters. So if you already have them in high constellations, that's kind of a buyer beware moment for those who are trying to get more Rosaria dupes. I have hit the point now where my Barbara is at C6 and my Fischl is at C6, and my Rosaria is about to be at C6 as well, so I don't think I'm going to pull on that banner anymore myself, but that's me. You do you. But she's a great unit. She's great in like 4 different comps. You can run her as a main DPS or a support really easily. She boosts the DPS of the party by an insane degree because of all of her passive skills. If you get constellations for her, if you get her all the way up to C6, she becomes an amazing support for any physical DPS, or hell, herself as a physical DPS. And even if you're only getting like 1 or 2 constellations, she's still really good with those because of the way that they buff her as a support and a main DPS. Either way, I think she's a great unit. That's kind of the whole point of this video. Rosaria is great. That's how I run her. That's how I recommend her. Thanks for watching and hanging out, and I hope to see you in the next one.